one, but here's McDonald around the corner. It's all come together for the D.
Scouting is the young. Kicks for goal. And he's pumped. Get around him. Bargo gets his first.
Hello again, Inside Melbourne with thanks to Zurich. Another big show coming up. Katie Price, my co-host, rejoins me. G'day, Katie.
Hey, Clint, it's great to be here, especially on the back of 2 wins on the trot.
It's nice, isn't it? Nice feeling around the Melbourne Football Club right now. We've got 2 very special guests, a couple of Ballarat boys. Why don't you do the introductions?
Yeah, we certainly do. What is better than 1 McDonald than 2? We've got Oscar and Tom, of course, with us tonight. It is a family affair.
It is very much so. G'day, boys.
Hey, fellas. Oh, not fellas. Ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Sorry. That's a force of habit.
It's all right.
The McDonald boys, right, here we are. Are you looking forward to the podcast? We've got some big questions for you, actually, from the outer. A lot of the fans want to get around you.
Well, I love podcasts. I listen to a lot every week. Oscar's more of a every morning as soon as he wakes up, he puts music on. I flick a podcast on. So we're different tastes.
Is that right, Oscar?
Yeah.
Now, you
more of the intellectual. Edenhope, by the way. But grew up in Edenhope, went to school in Ballarat.
Yeah, that's right. So how far is Edenhope from Ballarat?
A long, long way.
Is it right?
No, it's 3.5 hours. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Some a geography lesson straight off the top for us from country
Information.
Victoria. Boys, a terrific performance at the weekend. Look, a win over St Kilda, 39 points. Tommy, I'm going to start with you. Back from injury, second week back. How are you finding it?
It got a little bit better this week. Last week was not a struggle, but it hit me pretty solidly in about the end of the third quarter in the first game. But physically felt like I was actually able to contribute a bit more this week and was able to run and cover the ground and maybe not a liability for other players. So building back into it, it's probably would have been nice to have a bit more of like a normal lead in where you play your NAB Cup or your pre-season sort of games and get into it. But because of the nature of when my injury was, I didn't really get that luxury. But in saying that, it's been really good to actually go out and play and not feel hindered.
So a few more petrol tickets this week?
Yeah. I think it was just a combination of, having a week leading into it and then having another full week of training and even just maybe a bit of a mental thing of a bit more confidence of, I'll be able to run out this full game now.
What's made a big difference? Obviously, since you've been back, you can claim the 2 wins.
Yeah, I've said that a couple of times, but no one listens.
And Oscar, what about you? As I said, 2 wins on the trot, but the best thing for me was the consistency across those 4 quarters.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we worked on. We against the previous matches like Hawthorn and even the ones that we won in the earlier 4 rounds, we put together 2 quarters, 3 quarters, but we couldn't get the 4 quarters. And we've really sort of worked on where we went wrong in those quarters that we lost and address that issue. We still have fluctuations during the game, as all good any team does, but trying to minimise the momentum that the other team gets, that's a major key in the AFL today.
Oscar, how are you finding it this year? You're getting some big assignments down back and things look to be working pretty well for you.
Yeah, well, we've kicked Tom out of the back line, which has helped a lot. But no, it's good. I've got a challenge each week to play on the number 1 sort of key forward, and at the moment it's just sort of you can put all your focus. Of course, you still got to help your other teammates, but you put a major focus on just that one player, and it's sort of a specific task that you got, and I'm relishing that task. And you get beaten in one-on-ones every week, but as long as you sort of bounce back in the next contest, that really matters.
I've thought your right-hand man in Jakey Lever's been getting better every week, really fitting into the Melbourne way. Are you finding that as well?
Yeah, he's been really good from the outset, but you can just show he shows his intercepting ability every week, and it's just getting better and better. The more he sort of gels with our other backmen, it's he's just contributing to the team more and more.
Oscar, he did go forward just for a brief minute last week, took a mark inside 50 and sprayed it out on the full. He's got a bit to learn, Tom, if he wants to make that transition.
Not that hard, mate. Just line up straight. No, actually, when I was playing back, I think I kicked 7 points and 2 out in the full before I kicked my first goal in the 75th game of my career. So it took me a long time to kick a goal. I didn't have a lot of confidence when he marked it, but I wanted him to have a shot anyway.
Yeah.
I think the fact we were up by 40 points allowed him to do that. But
he's copped a bit of flake for it.
I can imagine he would have.
How much are you enjoying that role now, playing forward so much and being able to train there through the pre-season?
Yeah, I love it. It's interesting what Oscar just said about playing as the number 1 key defender. I had that role for a few years, and it's bloody stressful. Like it can be before games, but in games making mistakes. Oscar probably deals with that, being beaten and just going on to the next contest a bit better than I do. I dwell on it or get angry. I went through phases where I get extremely angry at myself or angry at coaches, angry at teammates. Then I went through a phase where I'd just get quiet and almost depressed, and then never really found a way to deal with it properly. I've found that going forward, I'm probably not having the same issue. If I make a mistake, I'm able to move on a little bit more, a little bit quicker, and don't feel the responsibility of the whole team weighing on your shoulders sometimes. But that's sort of the beauty of that position, is that, you know, the guys who can deal with that and do it well can be really effective at it. I think maybe playing forward, the mindset of it's helped me by being able to try and make the most of limited opportunities as a forward, because really you might only get 5 or 6 chances to have a good chance at a mark or a goal, and it's who can take the most of those chances during the game. And maybe that suits me a little bit more, of trying to, I don't know, craft something from nothing and just a different mindset that I think I'm enjoying.
It's really exciting, isn't it, to look at the forward line, how it's developing. I mean, in terms of the tools, yourself, Jesse, and now Sam Wiedemann, who's clunking them each and every week. He looks at a really, really bright prospect. We know of his potential. But in terms of the makeup, the tall makeup of the forward line right now, it's getting more settled.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Some teams you hear in the media that teams are too tall when they go in. I think Essendon was copying it for a couple of weeks with Hooker and Hurley and Danaher and who's the other one, Stewart, saying, they're too tall to function. But we've got 3 guys at the moment who are, you know, over 195, 6'4", 6'5" sort of guys. But I think the difference is we're able to, especially Jesse can play midfield, and I've been playing a bit of wing. Sam plays second ruck. I've played a bit of second ruck. So we all can do
versatility,
some different things. But if we couldn't do that, then it wouldn't work, I don't think, because you just sacrifice too much in a game today that requires turnovers in the front half of the ground. And as much as I like to think I'm quick, you're not as quick as the little fellas like Jeffy Garlett and Kenty and those sort of guys who put pressure on. Yeah. If you lose that, it can make it very difficult to get the ball in and score. So that's probably a part that we can't have all 3 of us there all game, but we can play different positions for parts of it as well.
It's as you say, it's a pretty dynamic forward line as well, isn't it? I mean, the options that you've got going through there.
Yeah, I think Hannon and Fritsch are probably the 2 most dynamic, because they're both good marks over the head. We saw Fritsch end up getting Goal of the Year or not? Goal of the Year nomination?
I think he got a nomination for Mark of the Year, maybe.
Oh, sorry, Mark of the Year.
Yeah.
We can nominate him.
We'll say he got
Why
it.
not? Give it to him.
We're biased here, it's fine.
Is he old enough to drive a car? I think he is, isn't he?
He doesn't look like it. But those sort of guys, because they can mark and then good on the ground, they're the hard ones to find a man to take them, because they can do both sides of it. And then we've got some actual smalls like Jeffy, and Charlie Spargo's done a really good job. So we've got probably a mixture of guys who can play different roles, and then those little guys who focus on 1 or 2 things and do it well.
So, Oscar, the assignment this week, a trip to Brisbane, the Gabba, of course, because the Gold Coast Stadium is still...
Can you explain to me why can they not get to Metricon yet? Is it still...
I think it took a while to rip up the track and then relay the grass and all that sort of thing.
So that's what they're waiting on.
I think they're still trying to figure out what happened during the closing ceremony, why that was such a debacle. So, Oscar, with Tommy Lynch out, who do you go to this week?
Yeah, they've got a few players roaming through there that we'll have to have a close look at, and at the moment they just seem to be, with the new coach, just trying to be competitive all over the ground. So it's going to be a hard task, even though their number 1 man's out. We can't, let our game slip by a couple of %, because that's when you get hurt in the game today.
So Tom Lynch out, and the Gold Coast generally, as you say, you can't underestimate a team like the Gold Coast Suns, even a team that is struggling at the moment. But it'd be nice to string together 3 wins in a row.
Exactly, which we haven't done too much in the past, or whenever I've been here, especially probably since you've been here, Tom. But it's about celebrating that win before for a day or so, and then getting back on the track and looking at the next game. So we'll look at Gold Coast, how they function, how they score, how we can stop them scoring, and go from there. You can't sort of dwell on a loss or a win these days, otherwise it will just catch up to you.
You mentioned the amount of preparation that you do individually on your specific opponent. Can you give us some sort of insight into your week, I suppose, and how far out you start looking at that bloke that you're going to play on? Or, I mean, are you watching constantly the key forwards around the comp?
Yeah. We'll, me and Troy Chaplin, the backline coach, will sit down and watch that number 1 forward that I'll play on most of the game, and we'll probably watch, don't know, 10 minutes of footage of him. You know, it would take longer than that because we'll break it down, pause and slow-mo and things like that. And then we'll watch how their forward line functions all together because I'm just not playing on that guy. I want to play on that guy, beat him, and then, you know, help out my teammates as well. So we'll look at that 4 or 5 days out from the game and then have that in the back of my mind while I'm training out on the track and trying to implement things that we think will work to beat that forward.
Probably change the opposition analysis. We used to do it sort of the day before the game and put all our not worry about it until a day or two before. But the new sports psychologist at the club has sort of said that you want to remove as much learning and stress from the night or the day before because you want it in your planning during the week. So the day before is just relax, forget about it, go home and, you know, do your own thing. You're not stressing about it the day before a game. So it's been interesting that the process now starts sort of 4 or 5 days out for the next team you're playing.
I find if you actually know what you're trying to do to beat that forward, then you've got those 1 or 2 training sessions to try and practice it. So whether I'm going to play in the back shot or whether I'm going to play a couple metres in front, I can practice that on training day to, you know, try and get it ingrained so I can, you know, it's sort of habitual by the time I get to the game day.
Tom, just on the injury that you sustained pre-season, heading into the season proper, that must have been a massive frustration. You look at a guy like Jack Viney, your co-captain, who is about to make what we hope will be a great comeback this week. Just touch on your frustration, your battle in the pre-season, and then just equate it to what he might be going through and the excitement he might be feeling this week ahead of the big clash against the Suns.
It was probably my fault in a way that I didn't take it as seriously at the start as what as I should have in hindsight, knowing that I was out for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, whatever it ended up being. I just had a bit of a sore toe, and you get that happen in every pre-season session. You get a foot stepped on or your feet come off and you're sore after running 14 Ks on a summer footy oval, which can be a bit hard. And then probably sort of thought 2 or 3 weeks later, like, oh, it's just still niggling me a bit and I probably should do something a bit more about it. Like I was getting treatment on it, but I probably need to be more forceful with the physios and doctors to say, look, no, this is probably gone past the point of being a bit annoying and now do something about it. But we probably left that stage a little bit too late, which ended up costing me a few games. But it's all sort of a learning process. I hadn't had that injury before. So it was, it was sort of part of, I don't know, learning and understanding your body, I guess. But it's a bit silly in hindsight because, it cost me 5 games of the season. In terms of the excitement, I was pretty nervous coming back for that first game, and Jack's has been even longer, and Jack's had such a up and down ride through the summer because of, one injury leads to the next, and then he ended up having a very similar thing to me. So I think he'd be pretty excited. Hopefully he's right to go this week. I think he's training today, and if everything's all good, then he can play some footy this weekend. So I'm pretty excited for him.
We mentioned the game last week. I said at the start there was performances across the ground that were great to watch. I mean, Jesse Hogan, Maxi Gawn, of course, both of you. But the one key one that I think was probably most pleasing was Angus Brayshaw to both of you. Yeah,
it's good to see him playing good footy again. He probably had not lost his way, but he just battled for a little while into last season, and even through the pre-season wasn't playing his best. He had some good patches. But it just seems like the last week or two, it's like he's remembered that, I'm actually pretty bloody good and I can do these things, that there's a reason why I'm a top draft pick, and, he's got the ability to do it.
I think he's a hard in and under midfielder, plays on the inside, and not that he'd been changed around to different positions, but they just go, righto, the last couple of weeks you're playing inside midfield and, back to basics, and he just dominates when he does that. So, there's not much to think about. He just gets in there, tracks the ball and hunts it pretty much.
With thanks to Zurich, Tom, Oscar, McDonald, the Eden Hope boys joining us on Inside Melbourne. There you go, I got it right this time. We're going to take some questions from the outer after the break, but before we do, a lot of the questions in here ask about your respective contracts. Tom, I'm going to start with you. Re-signing with the club, how important would it be for you?
Yeah, it'd be amazing to have it done. It's just such a process. It's a process that I don't know if it's the same in other jobs. Is it the same? What do you do with?
Well, we don't get as much money, but
it's bloody hard to get a pay rise.
Well, it can be pretty easy to get a pay decrease as well. So.
Exactly.
But it's a long process.
Struggling journos.
I'm not sure about Oscar. We've both got the same manager, but I don't ask how his is going, and I don't know if he asks about mine. But by the time you speak to your manager and they talk to the footy club, then the footy club will have a list management meeting, and then they have to tick it off with all the relevant parties, and they come back and the club, and then my manager goes, we don't like this part or don't like this part, but this is pretty good, and we'll send something back, and this can take months and months going back and forward. Well, you are making progress. Maybe on the outside it looks like one of the sides is stalling. So,
but you've gone on the record. I mean, you're keen to stay.
Yeah, I'd like to stay.
Yeah,
doesn't guarantee that it's happening because you need two sides to agree to a contract. So, but it doesn't mean I want to leave.
And Oscar, while we're at it, what about you? Your future at the club?
It's pretty much the same. We've had talks and back and forth, and at the moment we're still talking. And I don't know anything about Tom's, but I'd love to stay at the club, and I'm pretty confident that can happen.
But you two do live together, right?
We do.
In Richmond.
We do.
Got a shack in 3121.
3121.
How do you go living together?
Pretty good. We don't see each other that much, really. We used to when we've lived together for 4 years, ever since he got drafted, and it used to be every night we'd be on the couch and eat dinner together, and now we were both single then. Both got girlfriends and stay at different houses, different nights of the week. So it's we don't have as much time together, but
we're pretty similar. We're pretty clean, aren't we?
Yeah, it works well. It works. The house is pretty clean.
House is pretty clean. Don't go in Tom's bathroom. That's an absolute dive.
Oh no! No! Here we go.
Yeah, we were in a 2-bed, 1-bathroom apartment.
Oh, that's
the previous
not great,
one. And the way Tom looks after his toilet, it's not
that bad.
It's not good. It's not good. So I'm pretty happy I've got my separate one.
Good stuff. Hey, Inside Melbourne continues after this short break. We're going to head into the outer and get some questions from the fans. Thanks to our co-major partner and podcast sponsor, Zurich. For over 100 years, they've been ensuring the people and things you truly love. And just like you, they truly love footy and truly love Melbourne. You're back with Inside Melbourne. We all love the Melbourne Football Club, which brings us to our very special question, Katie.
Well, we certainly do. And each and every week on the podcast with us, with special thanks to our friends at Zurich, of course, we've got one question for both of you. What do you truly love?
Start off with me.
Yep.
Go on.
I love my mum and dad. They gave us.
It's Mother's Day this week.
Is it? Oh, kidding. Of course, I've already got my present for her. No, they gave us every opportunity when we were younger. It wasn't all. They never gave us sort of materialistic items. It was always the time and love and support to fulfil our endeavours, and I think that's held us in pretty good stead. Today when we're older, we sort of appreciate the things we've got and, recognise still where we come from, and our parents still support us and come down every week to watch us play footy and watch our sisters play netball and such things.
So just on that, I mean, there must have been a lot of travel involved. How much time did you spend in the cars getting to your footy training, school, all that sort of stuff? Did you board in Ballarat?
Yeah, well, what happened was when we were at Edenhope, we lived 20 k's out of town on the farm, so we just catch the school bus in every day. But when we started playing like North Ballarat Rebels footy, I was playing some basketball. Oscar was playing rep tennis. There was a lot of going to Horsham once, twice a week, and then to Ballarat and Melbourne once a week. I think when I was playing under 16 Rebels, I was doing 1,500 k's a week, going to training in Ballarat on a Thursday, which is 3.5 hours each way, and then train in Melbourne on the Saturday to play. So I went to boarding school at the end of year 11, and Oscar went halfway through year 10. Yeah. And we went to boarding school in Ballarat, and that's where we sort of... I don't think I wouldn't have got drafted without boarding school, just based on how I was going. I wasn't playing that great of footy, but being able to go to boarding school, played better school footy and had a chance to do better at Rebels footy, and it's probably the reason I got drafted. So,
Tom, I'm guessing with thanks to Zurich, you love a road trip?
I do love a road trip, actually. I like driving. I was just thinking about what I really love, and I really love my job. I think playing football, you have a meaning, you have a purpose, and there's a great responsibility of being able to play AFL football, or if it was any sport at all, really, whatever it would be. But I really do love my job and the opportunity I've been given to do that. So, yeah, I think it's something that it has purpose and has meaning for so many people around Australia and even the world. So it's a pretty cool thing to do every day.
Katie, let's get into the outer because we've got a selection of sensational top shelf questions here. I'm going to start with a question from Gilly. Gilly writes, Oscar, what does it feel like to live in Tom's shadow? That's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Thanks, Gilly. Jeez. Well, maybe that'd explain why I'm so pale and white. I don't know, but no, it's good. Fly under the radar and let Tom answer all the hard questions. Yeah.
Growing up, Tommy, what was it like to be able to bully the little brother?
We actually didn't like each other. We fought a lot, like physical fights.
Do you like each other now?
Yeah, we do now.
We've got this sort of, what do you call it, like a rumpus room, pool room sort of thing. Oh, it's got a table tennis table in it. But and on the back wall of it, it's white paint, and there's that many red, black marks on it from table tennis bats being thrown from one end, trying to hit the other person ducking, and it's hitting the wall. There was a lot of blues.
Well, probably to follow that up, from Matthew, he says, if Tom was playing forward on Oscar, who would win the matchup?
Oh, Tommy, all yours, mate.
It's interesting. We played each other a fair bit in pre-season. I didn't do a heap of the pre-season. We did a bit, but no, I noticed a difference in him physically this year in his body strength. He's probably actually stronger than me. I just tried to always be quicker and lighter on my feet. That was probably my advantage against Oscar, but if the ball was on our head, he was able to push me under the ball and use his hips and strength to sort of move me around. So, it's a different matchup. I rely on different things and he relies on other things. So,
Oscar?
We haven't really had.
Claim it. Come on, just claim it.
I wish I could claim. I'd nearly say Tom would have me, but our forwards, I've said it before, they're the hardest to play on. I don't know whether that's just the drills set up in training but I find our forwards in Tom, Jesse, Mitch and Melky are the hardest forwards to play on in the competition.
Wow.
Hands down.
That's good to hear,
Yeah.
isn't it?
So there you go. Hopefully
It'd be good to have an actual proper intra-club where we got to play each other for a whole game.
No holes barred.
Oh, hang on, you might get traded at the end of the year.
Even intra clubs though, you can't. You don't
yeah.
go full on. Like you've got a patch to go into. You're scared to put your knee up.
Yeah.
It's harder.
Let's talk a little bit of golf. Oscar, I'll bring you in. Every player we have on Inside Melbourne tells me about how good you are with the golf clubs. How much do you play? What's your handicap at the moment? What's your favourite course?
How much do I play? I probably play once a week, depending on how the body's holding up. Once a week, I might not play for a couple of months though. My handicap's 1 or 2, I think, at the moment. And
Not great, Tom.
Slipping.
no,
I think he was 0.9 a month or two ago. So.
And I've played Royal Melbourne a fair few times. Gus Brayshaw is a member there. That's awesome course.
Yeah.
And the National down sort of, Mornington way, past Mornington. That's a really nice track as well. But love golf, and you just have to sort of keep it quiet from the physios every now and then because they're not happy if you turn up with a sore back and you've been playing golf.
Last week, Bernie Vince was telling us how good he is on the golf course. Is that right?
Don't know.
Bernie's one of the worst players to play with.
Why?
He thinks about his swing.
All he
much.
does is you could hit hole in one and he'd be asking about his stroke 3 holes ago. What do you reckon about this one? It's like, Bernie, I've been playing pretty well, mate. How about you get around me? So.
That's generally what he's like, though, isn't it? On the footy field too.
No, it goes to another level on the golf course because he's honestly obsessed with golf for some reason. Like when did he start? He only started a few years ago.
So intense, yeah.
And he's as intense as you never see. He's not that intense on the footy field.
Okay. Well,
when he chucks an elbow out there and cleans someone up, that's pretty intense. But
okay, well, the teammates are getting involved. Maxi Gawn, when will Oscar grow out of Tom's hand-me-downs?
I've actually got one in my cupboard that I'll wear all the time.
The UCLA jumper.
Oh, that one.
And bed sheet.
Tom calls it a bed sheet. I've got this big
Dom Tyson calls it a bed sheet.
Yeah. Big out of that, and it's just this oversized shirt that goes down on my knees, and it's so big that it wouldn't have fit
It looks
you.
like he's
I don't
wearing
know
a fitted sheet.
Well, the problem you would have had it. You would have had it when you were 16.
Yeah, I was massive.
And it definitely wouldn't have fit. Now you bag me out because I'm too skinny to wear it. Still do wear them though. Okay. Unfortunately.
I got a lot of hand-me-downs from cousin Nick, but he's only hadn't got many from me. So.
Well,
he can buy his own now.
I don't really like his taste anyway. So.
His massive contract he's asking for.
Oh, here we go. Hey, Tommy, how do you see your brother's progress? Really, as I mentioned in the first segment, really come on, especially this year. But how are you seeing go?
Yeah, I think this year's been probably not even. It's probably after the last 4 weeks. First couple of rounds, you're probably still finding his feet a tiny bit. but you see the physical difference in terms of how he can actually play on these guys, and all of a sudden he's the one who dictates position rather than being pushed around. And then you see the sort of confidence, mental side of it come out when you start maybe marking a couple and you got the confidence to just go for it. So on the weekend against St Kilda, first play of the game that he's involved in, I was at the drop a ball for it, and it was 1-on-3, and I've gone, oh no, like they're about to clunk one here and get the first goal of the game, and Oscar bumps off McCartan, falls into a contested mark, opposition mark, deep in the D50, and all of a sudden, I know what that's like as a player. You get that first one on the board and you go, yeah.
We're away.
Well, you think about yourself, like personally, like I'm in a good spot straight away. You make a first mistake in your contest and you can start doubting yourself. I've seen that difference in the confidence that he plays with to actually go and get that ball and win it rather than maybe just go the defensive spoil out of bounds. And I think the difference for him to be a unbelievable player is to be able to still have an offensive side to his game and go and mark those balls he can, rather than just always being a negative, can beat your man, because he's shown he can beat some of the best forwards, but can you have an impact going back the other way as well?
And Oscar, how do you rate your bro up in the forward line? Are you happy to see him up in the forward line these days? Just get rid of him.
Get rid of him. No, I think the forward line suits him really well. When, well, saying that, he was a pretty good backman as well, but when he was in the back line, you know, one of his main strengths was intercepting the ball, beating his man and intercepting the ball, and going for his marks. But when you're in the forward line, you don't have any of those what-if sort of moments, or I don't think you do, as much as the back. Like, if I go for a mark, I'll go, what if I drop this and they get an easy goal? With the forward line, your mindset is just, I'm going to just fly and try and mark every ball, and I think that's sort of Tom's natural flair and game, like that he will just go for that, and if he marks it, he marks it, which he's doing more often than not, and if he's not, he's bringing it to the ground for our small forwards to go to work. So, and the way he can move around the ground for a big guy, it's pretty unbelievable.
And Oscar, just on your form, I mean, Goody spoke, I think, after the Essendon game and said, obviously, that they've identified you as a key position player for many years to come, hopefully. How much confidence do you take out of the fact that he's just backed you in, week out?
Yeah, I love it. I'm not saying that I won't ever not play on those big keys, but in saying that he trusts me to do that role, and he's identified me as the sort of reliable guy to do that. I take a lot of confidence from that. That I can go out there and he's got his faith in me to sort of stop a good player on their team. It's really good. Awesome.
Couple more from the outer before we wrap things up on Inside Melbourne. The McDonald boys joining us here with thanks to Zurich. Veronica writes, and this might take a bit of thought, when I was growing up, my brothers and I never stopped laughing. When was the last time you laughed the hardest together?
I was thinking about, I saw this last night. We laugh a fair bit when we're watching like Robbo on AFL 360 sometimes. That's the one thing we watch together, is we're probably cooking dinner at the same time and AFL 360 be on the background, and we like to laugh at Slobbo.
Yeah.
So we have a giggle at him. What else do we laugh at?
Don't know. Or Tom tags me in some stuff on Facebook, which is pretty trivial, I guess, and half of the stuff I don't even get, and then the other half is just classic gold. So Robbo is the source of just
a lot of funny.
Yeah.
Like not that's not baggage.
Just because of the things he says,
his expression,
the way he looks.
I love when they're doing like he's got Jared right next to him, and he gets super close and starts like almost poking him in the chest, and it's like, if I was there, he'd be like, piss off, Robbo, like get your hand off me, sort of thing.
There's so much expression and emotion.
Yeah. So
and Jared's sitting there and he's pretty like straight,
analytical.
And Robbo's just sitting there rubbing his face and just can't believe what's going on. And it's funny.
It is funny.
One more from the outer, from Laura. Who's your favourite sister?
Laura. For me.
Sasha. I love Sasha.
No, we split that one down the middle.
Laura knows.
Just on
Sasha's the better one.
On the family thing. We mentioned Mother's Day, obviously, this week. Who was the favourite growing up?
Out of us two or us?
Yeah, out of you two.
So for Mum, I think I was Mum's favourite. Oscar, of the boys, Oscar's Dad's favourite. But
Really?
Oscar doesn't give Dad enough attention. So Dad will call and Oscar will be like, yeah, playing this week. Yeah, okay. See you, Dad. And Dad like craves any attention you can give him on the phone, because he'll call to talk about the weather in Edenhope. He'll talk about he's been crutching lambs or whatever he's been doing back home on the farm.
Mum
craves any attention from Oscar, but Oscar gives him the minimal amount.
Well, when he's just bored. So
Yeah,
he's
he
one of those. So Mum comes down to Melbourne all the time, sometimes for work, sometimes to watch us play footy, and Dad has to stay on the farm. And he's probably had a couple of beers and he's sitting there watching TV and he's just bored, and he would start texting my mates saying, "Oh, what's going on?" And like,
Really?
Dad, you can't text. And then he would give you a ring and you're like, "What's going on, Dad?" And he'd be like, just sitting here, looking at the weather online. And you're like, "Well, like this
That's
phone,
his favourite
this phone call's going nowhere. Like, why'd you call me?" But
And
anyway.
was Tom
Sasha,
Mum's favourite?
our youngest sister, is hands down the favourite from both.
Full
She's
stop.
the most spoiled little
she's
brat.
very spoiled. As kids, when we were all in the house together, I reckon I was Mum's favourite because I was the clean one then.
Except the bathroom.
Well, bathroom wasn't my responsibility then. So.
Clearly, you don't get sick of being around each other, though. You two.
Nah, and as we said before, we actually spend a lot less time than we used to. We'd be just home every night by
That's
ourselves.
not great.
Oh, it was, good and bad, I guess. But
Watching
we've both
Robbo
got...
and Jared on the
watching Robbo and Jared every night.
Sounds exciting, boys. Well done.
That's
Night in the McDonald house.
Yeah, that's actually pretty poor when I think about that. That's our entertainment for the week. Yeah.
Hey boys, thanks so much for joining us on Inside Melbourne. It's been a laugh, been an insight too, Katie. I think
Yeah, it certainly has.
You'd agree. And
Some
all
of it I'd rather not know, but
yeah, likewise. But good luck this week. When do you fly to Brisbane?
Friday lunchtime, roughly, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
Up to Brisbane, have a little run around up there. We usually do a little training session the day before, so we'll do that at the ground so we have a bit of a feel for it. I haven't played it together for a long time, so and then play Saturday, come home Saturday night, hopefully with a win.
We hope you do bank those 4 points. Very important at this time of year. Very important any game we play, of course. Inside Melbourne, thanks to Zurich. Katie Price. We'll see you next
Great to
week.
be here for another week. Thanks, guys.
No, thanks for having us on.
Thank you.